And we are live. Hey, Concrete. Hey, Shalakemia.
Good
Hello.
morning. Good
How
morning.
are
Good morning. Good morning. How's
you?
it going? To our guest first.
Great. I'm great. How are you?
Danny, how?
I'm great.
Okay. Sorry about that. Danny, how's it going? And of course, we'll allow our guest to introduce herself for any of you who does not know who she is. But I'm sorry, Danny, how's it going?
Girl, it's going. We here. We ready.
We made it on this good Sunday. I am tired, but I'm high energy because I've been drinking my coffee, which isn't really coffee. It's more like creamer and a little splash of coffee. So I have high energy right now. But nonetheless, we do have a special guest. As you guys have seen by the title, Shalakemia is joining us today for this interesting topic that we're going to be discussing regarding is there redemption for Black men, for the brothers. But we want to go ahead and allow her an opportunity to introduce herself and talk about her platforms and what she has going on. So, Shalakemia, if you would do us the honors.
Absolutely. For the people that don't know me, my name is Shalakemia. I'm a content creator, motivational speaker, business coach. Um, and I like to have I like to come to the table and have a conversation that other people don't like to have. And I also on my content, I like to um touch on things that people are scared to touch on or be the voice or stand on the front line. So I'm excited. I didn't really think I had a place on YouTube, to be honest with y'all. I've been active for maybe I would say a year, and I'm about to come
Oh,
up on like 100,000 subscribers. So
Girl, help us.
I
wow.
am.
Look
It's
at that. Look at
exciting.
God.
I didn't really know. I was always on Facebook and Instagram. I came over here,
Wow.
got in Facebook jail one day because they report my content all the time. So I came over here and the numbers just started going up. So I'm like, okay, this is cool on
Wow.
YouTube. I didn't know nothing about the YouTube world at all. Nothing.
I thought you had been on YouTube for years. Like,
I
I was
was, but I didn't use my account at all.
Oh,
oh
wow.
wow. I did not
Didn't use
know
it.
you really just started producing content on YouTube like over the past year. That is amazing. Like congratulations on your success on the platform, first of all. Clearly that means you're saying something that the people want to hear. So that's an awesome thing. That's an awesome feat as well. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you
Yes.
for
Yeah.
having me. I appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank you.
girl. It's our pleasure, honey. I
Absolutely.
I have to say that I love, love, love your shorts and
Thank you.
maybe quick to the point and be like bang bang, and I'll be like, oh, she gonna hit him, honey.
Um, I had to be honest with y'all, I had to master that getting
Really?
on YouTube and them having shorts because I sat back. I'm like, well, hold on. People are watching the shorts more than are watching the longer videos. So I said, okay, I have to get what I'm saying in 1 minute. So I was mastering it, and now it's like I mastered it because I used to do like long videos. I was talking for like an hour. So doing those shorts, it was challenging, but I got it down packed now.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that it was easier for you to do longer videos than for you to do shorts?
I was so accustomed to doing longer videos because I would record my videos, then I would put them up. My videos would be maybe 3 to 5 minutes.
I haven't mastered the art of just um talking for like long periods of time because I kind of
Really?
feel awkward with just talking, and then it's like, do people really want to know what I think? And people do be wanting to know what you think about stuff,
Right.
but just to sit there and have like a full thought process on just whatever subject matter and then be able to talk and have good points and really
Yeah.
articulate that to me, I think that's like a
Yeah.
skill.
My
I think
first.
so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with Danny.
Oh, my first viral video, about 4 million views on Facebook. It was about 5 6 minutes.
Wow.
That's
It was 5 or 6
awesome.
minutes long. So that's what I was accustomed to. I came to YouTube and it just taught me something different. So I get out what I have to say in 1 minute now.
You know what? Like my thing is, so I'm a trainer by trade. Like I'm a trainer by my career. And Danny has told me, I'm sorry, Sister George, like I call her Danny, but and I've had other people tell me I literally am a trainer by trade. I've been training for 17 years almost. And that I sound too scripted. Like I'm like I don't sound, and I think that for me, that doesn't come off, that doesn't go over well because I sound very formal. Like that's what it is. It's not scripted. It's I sound very formal, not not personable almost. I sound too formal when I'm trying to do the like 3-minute videos. It's like, like I need to relax, almost like I'm at work. And I think I struggle with that because of it.
Yeah, I mean, like your personality doesn't come through.
Yeah,
it's just
you
like,
always tell me that.
I'll be like, concrete.
She's in work mode. She's in career mode, and you have to change over. Like me, I'm a business coach, so I have to be. Well, I can't say that because with my business coaching, I'm effective, but I'm real. If your logo's a mess, I'm gonna tell you, baby, your logo's a mess. We can't do this. You know, so I'm very direct, but I'm understanding. I guess it mixed together for me. I guess.
But that's that, you know,
but I'd be like, when she get, as soon as she hit that camera,
yeah, you know what, and she knows a different side of me, and so like she's like, you know, you're personable but it doesn't come across, and that's oftentimes because I'm speaking like my content, I'm speaking about something that I've researched or something, right? So if I'm speaking off the cuff, then it's different, but I'm speaking about a topic that I've researched, and I research my topics that I train on, so it feels like I'm facilitating to a group of people aside from me having a conversation with a girlfriend. You know, I have to figure out how to, you know, break through that barrier, but
you'll get there. Yeah. You will.
Oh yeah. I'm seeing some success on platforms just by talking about things that I find endearing to me or sharing information that I find endearing to me. I'm seeing a little bit more success. Still not what I want, but still I'm seeing some success, and I like that because it is something that is true to, you know, who I am. So I think I found my niche anyways. So, but yeah. Danny, did you have anything else before we hop off into this topic?
No, but I do want to tell you guys, I did drop a Miss I Am Shalakemia's link in the chat. And if you are looking to subscribe to her social media, I'm going to post the rest of it in our description. If I could do it between it, like I meant to do it before the show started, so forgive me for that. But you could definitely find her, and we'll keep dropping her link throughout, and they're dropping your link in the chat. So thank you guys for that. Please continue to do that. Please, please, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you guys can go subscribe and go check out her content, honey. She what y'all want.
Absolutely. And I do want to say this. So Shalakemia, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our channel, but and I know that I don't know how you and or if you categorize yourself at all. I guess when someone asks me like, well, you know, what type of person you are, I've always said, well, I consider myself to be male identified, and I certainly consider you to be male identified. You know, they have all these new catchphrases and new words, so I would say, you know, she's, you know, seems to be a very conscious woman, you know, articulate. Like there's a bunch of different descriptors that I would give, but I certainly attach the word male identified to you. But I say all that to say, I'm not sure if you are aware, but our channel is in the manosphere. And I say that because our audience is like 86-90% male. We have an 86-90% male audience, which I'm sure this would really won't have too much of a bearing on you, but I still want to just put it out there. As a result, they are very direct and very, you know, assertive, and they don't hold any punches. But you kind of are the same in you know, your approach. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I figured that you knew our channel was in the manosphere, and even with our channel being in the manosphere, we do some controversial topics that aren't necessarily geared towards the manosphere, but we do that intentionally because we want to bridge the gap between Black men and Black women. And it's kind of almost kind of like to um kind of to like casting a net, like, so we might have some controversial topics to cast a net because people are going to be like, what did they say, and they want to come and engage because they feel offended at the mere thought of us having certain topics. So I don't know if you're aware, but that is kind of, our channel is a male dominated channel in a male space.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I guess I say some things on my channel that, engages people to and are offended. I started out that way though. I started out about 90% men, 10% women. I'm almost even now. Which I like that because
wow,
now women are coming and they're messaging me and they're like, Shalakemia, like you saved my marriage. You taught me how to be a woman, so it's like my content, they're coming around. I mean, their husbands are even thanking me,
wow.
so it's like they're definitely coming around. It's definitely, evening out. I think just being, consistent, with the content. And also like when I first came in, they're like, oh, Shalakemia is just for Black men. And, it's like, I'm not just for Black men, but we don't speak enough and have that conversation in these spaces about Black men. It's always been about Black women and what we need and what we deserve. And, it's like, no, we need to come to the table and have a conversation about what Black men deserve as well. It's not just about us. I'm a woman that can be honest and say, no, when I'm in a relationship or, just whatever, it's not just about me. And I think that's where a lot of Black women get it wrong. They were taught that, like, oh, it's all about you and what you want. They teach it in church, and they're looking for great direction from church. So if they're not teaching in church the family unit, what are a lot of Black women supposed to think? Because there's a lot of Black women that rely on the church, but yeah.
So what is it? Is there something in particular that you feel that you did that resulted in the change to your audience? Because I know for us, we've been producing content for 3.5 years, and our audience has been pretty consistent. We've increased a bit because with the female audience, just a wee bit. We've increased a wee bit, but women seem to be repulsed at the fact that they feel that we defend Black men. And the interesting thing is, we consider ourselves to be very balanced. We're still Black women, and because we're in a space where the men can have some very extreme points of view, oftentimes you'll hear us coming to the aid and defense of women, and they still are like, no, we want no parts of it. So is there something in particular that you did, or the women just started listening and it just natural shift that happened with your audience?
Well, my channel isn't just me, saying, coming to the table saying, listen, we're going to treat Black men better. It's really a mixture. It's a mixture of me just coming to the table saying, listen, like encouragement, empowerment. I think that's what pulls some of the women on my channel, because I come to the table and I'm real. One of my viral videos also was when I came to the table. I'm like, listen, like I try to kill myself, y'all. I went to the crazy ward at the hospital. I stayed there for a week. I just come to the table when I be me.
Yeah.
So I think some of the women on my channel can relate to things like that. Like, okay, hold up. She's coming to the table, with a conversation, not just about Black men, but about mental health now. You see what I'm saying? She's open about suicide. And that opens doors for people to be able to come and be like, okay, she's relatable. She's coming, this is real life. And my channel is about, part of it is about real life. And me also coming to the table, like, listen, y'all, I haven't always been this woman. I wasn't taught to love a Black man. I need to come and be honest with y'all if I want y'all to trust me and understand where I'm coming from. So I think that's how some of those women came around to say, you know what? I think some of them that wanted to grow, every Black woman doesn't want to grow. We're going to be honest. They don't want to grow. They're okay being toxic, but some do. And when they find people like us, that's coming and having a real conversation and they're listening and they're like, you know what? I can change some things. she's talking to me. I'm like that, you know. I need to be better, you know. There are women out there that desperately want to change, you know.
Mhm.
So it's just about having a real conversation. Like when I'm coming, it's not scripted, you
Right.
know. I say what needs to be said for our people to be able to grow and be better. We're not having real conversations. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
On people on some of these podcasts, and you know, it's so scripted on TV. It's so
Yeah. You're
scripted.
being vulnerable and
Listen,
being real.
right? Life ain't
Yeah.
scripted. It's just
How
not. You see what I'm
how
saying?
right, right.
Mhm.
How hard was it for you to be vulnerable in front of so many people and then people that you don't know and kind of bearing your soul out? And you know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of people kind of struggle with talking about their real issues. Most of us kind of like to put a you put up a picture on social media. You want people to have this
The
certain thought process.
representative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how hard was it for you to be vulnerable?
To be honest with you, my suicide attempt kind of prepared me for that. Um, I was in a very bad state, and I was looking to God for a lot of things, and I'm like, God, you know, I wanna share this, you know, and it's like, you know how the coach has that pep talk, you know, with the team players, and that's what God did to me. He's like, listen, you can't worry about your family, you can't worry about friends, you can't worry about people judging you. I need you to go help people. That was all I needed. That was
Mm.
all I needed. I can't care what nobody thinks about me after that point. I have to focus on the people that God needs me to pour into. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can't worry about what my family's gonna say. Listen, they done called me crazy. They done talked about me like a dog and everything. But let me say something. After I shared that, then they come back around and need my help. You see what I'm saying? They want
Mhm.
to have a private conversation because they experienced and went through the same thing. So I let God guide me and lead me. I don't let man guide and lead me. So if I'm gonna come to the table and when I shared the fact that I was suicidal, it opened up so many things in people. People
Wow.
started
I
reaching
can
out. Like
imagine.
a man reached out to me. I want to say like maybe 4 Christmases ago. He was about to jump off the bridge. Another woman, you know, she was about to shoot herself. If we don't come and have these conversations, how do people know who they can go and talk to?
Mm.
You know, it's so crazy that you said that. And the training that I went to this week was specifically about talking people, um, trying to talk people in emergency situations to not um,
Right.
commit suicide. And it's interesting that you said that. And that was the specific training that I went to this week. And I learned a lot of interesting skills from that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we don't talk about. And then um so my training was with a lot of I think I was the only black woman in the room, and it was just another female that was taking the class.
Mhm.
And so I was talking about black people and black issues, and I know them folks was looking at me like black men. I'm like, yeah, black men have a high suicide rate.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I talked about the red pill community. I talked about veterans, and I was like, there are a number. This stuff is going to go up in the next few years. You're gonna keep seeing rises in this. Because we're not really doing anything to address it. And they
Right.
brought up Twitch and everything, and I'm like, okay, that's one instance. But when it comes down to people not being in happy relationships, not being healthy, not taking care of themselves,
Right.
Mhm.
no friends, no,
Mhm.
or don't care about their family, don't want to connect with their family.
Yeah. We're
And
socializing less. We are
right,
inflation. Yeah, we don't have
Absolutely.
connections to our family. People are isolating at a higher rate than ever before.
Right.
ever. And so, they were looking at me crazy because I kept saying, well, what about us over here? It was
Right.
like, well, we're trying to talk to a specific group, and I work with veterans, and so they were trying to
Yeah.
address veterans. But then I'm like, you have a lot of veterans entering into certain online communities. They're
Mhm.
absorbing the rhetoric, and then they're
Mhm.
trying to change a thought process on how we view suicide, how we view death. And I think a lot of it's super duper interesting, but it's that's a lot to be vulnerable about,
That
especially
part.
Yeah.
on a platform like this where so many people are judgy and
That's
just flat out fucking, excuse me,
that's
just
the
flat out
thing.
mean.
I commend you for that, because I wouldn't be able to. And I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I'm not there. I'm not there because of the sole reason that trust is very big to me. And I commend anybody, like I commend Danny, because she's far more forthcoming than I would ever be on this platform. And it's because I've seen people take information and use it for evil. I've seen people take your information and try to get you fired, try to get your home taken. Like, literally, the doxing that I've seen. We've been content creators for 3.5 years. We've been in this space for like close to 6-7 years. And we've seen people literally use medical records against people, share private photos of people. Like, I mean, these are like, you know, photos that was surgical photos that might have been shared with a girlfriend. Like, I've seen some of the worst behavior and so much misuse of information that I can't allow myself to be vulnerable. Like, it has created a block for me that I'm like, I protect what's near and dear to me. I protect my husband. I protect my family. I'm very particular about what I share, and I don't share much because I've seen them misuse it and abuse it. And I have a career. I have a home. I have so much to protect that it scares me to share information on a public platform knowing they can abuse it.
Yeah, I mean, I've came over here and shared that, you know, I've been living with a brain tumor for years, and they
I
use
saw that.
But to be honest with y'all, they can't use anything that I didn't share. I'm not embarrassed about anything. You know what I mean? I already shared that. I tell my own business. You can't come and say nothing.
You said a word then.
You can't say nothing. You can't use nothing. God already told me. Tell your own business. They can't use nothing. Be comfortable in it. So when they do try to come and use it, it don't affect you. Because the enemy wants you to feel like that. He wants you to feel afraid. Like, oh no, don't say that, because I don't care. I was in a relationship with somebody, and I walked away from the relationship because one thing, I can go through a lot with a man. I can't deal with a cheater.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with no cheater. I tell him from the door, you cheat, I'm gone. Anything else, I don't care about your flaws. I don't care about nothing. You cheat, I'm gone. He cheated, I left. And he was so mad. He was so angry. Oh, you a content creator? I'm gonna put your new put him up there. Tag me, baby. I know what he was in a relationship. I
was like, baby, I sent the good photos. Hey, when I sent them, don't do me no. Listen,
you got the wrong one. You can't use that against me. Tag me in the photos, baby. You ain't gonna do nothing but have a whole bunch of men in my inbox, and you know you don't want that, so you ain't about to share nothing. You know, but people try to do that against you, and it's so horrible. You see what I'm saying? Because I would have never said that. I never, I'm gonna share you. Nah, I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm just going about my life. I'm not about hurting anybody. Even people hurt me. I'm not a retaliating type person. I'm gonna just go about my life. You see what I'm saying? But I can't be afraid of that, because that will limit me and my purpose if I feel some type of way about what somebody going. Do whatever you want to do. These women have sat and say, "Oh, you had a brain tumor, and that man left you," and this and that. So he did. And what? What you gonna say after that? You ain't got nothing else to say. So what? It's life, you know? Yeah. But see, they want me to stop empowering Black men. So they want to use any little thing they can. And you can't. You can't, because I've been blessed with a strength that they don't even know about. That's why they operating in weakness, and they'll try to come up against you and your truth and your testimony. They can't do that with me. Take whatever part you want, make it what you want. I'm going to rely on the fact that God knows the truth. And I'm going to go on with my life.
Look, I love it.
A certain type of strength to be able, when you talk about like walking in your own light and being your full self, and then being strong enough mentally to be able to put yourself out there, and whatever happens. I think that is just a different type of strength. But I always find that to be dope, because I'm kind of under the same mind. Y'all will be fine. You can't use my life against me. Right. And then you gonna use my life against me like you done lived a perfect life, or like your family has been perfect. Like you ain't got nothing going on. Like
that part too. But the thing is, Absolutely. They get to hide under this anonymity. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they have an avatar of a Yu-Gi-Oh character or something. Like we don't know who they truly are. So they're
Exactly.
literally spectators and they're like watching our lives or watching, listening and taking
Yeah.
in and ingesting information that we give to throw back at us. So I don't care about, like they'll be like, oh, you were a single mom, da da da. Like you can't hurt me with any of that information.
Right.
Like the thing is, like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I work in corporate America. I don't want you misusing my information, finding out, where I work, trying to find out my husband's business, my children's business. Like I don't want you going that far and
Right.
like don't play with my livelihood. Those are the types of things that I'm like,
Right.
looking up my address and stuff like that. This ain't what you want. So those are the
Right.
types of things that I'm like, I don't play with. And so I feel like for me, for any person, your first line of defense is yourself. And like to protect myself, I'm just very careful with what I share. I think I would have a different view if I had not entered the manosphere. When I started, like, if this wasn't my first real view of like content creation, because I've just seen so much messiness happen here. It's like,
Yeah.
Would you have
I viewed
came?
it.
Did you come with your real name and everything when you first got here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right before I started being a content creator, though, I just wanted people to call me Mia my whole life. I didn't even like Shalakemia, to be honest. I didn't like the name, you know. It came with a lot of like just hurt and pain growing up. But once God brought me to that point where, let me know like you're Shalakemia. You have to own this. You have to grow into this. And right before I started making videos, I'm like, okay, I'm Shalakemia. I'm okay with people calling me that. I'm going to own this name. This is who I am. It sets me apart. He had to do a lot of work on me in my season of singleness. A lot of work. It was like a crash course on so many different things. So yeah, when I came out, I'm Shalakemia. you know. And I knew people weren't going to know how to say it, so that's why at the end of every video, I'm like, "And my name is Shalakemia," because I need people
And
to
I
know how to
said
say
what I
it.
said.
You know?
I like it though.
Yeah,
I like that. That's important. Like, first of all, people should know your name. Like when people call you by name, it makes the ancestors proud, number one. So they should be calling you by your name. I did not
right,
come in under my name and I don't use my name. Not that I
right.
have a unique name. Sometimes like people have slipped up and called me by name that I've had as guests that know my name, or I think
Mhm.
maybe once or twice, maybe I don't even know if Danny has ever. She's so used to calling me by my moniker. I don't think that she has, but people have slipped up and or like my real name was tied to like my Cash App, and I've sent people, money to.
Yeah,
So there are people in the space who know my name. It's not like I'm like, oh, I don't want anybody to know my name, but
right.
I just came in under a moniker because I think I had a moniker attached to my YouTube, just
I came
because.
in under my real name, honey, and I was like, damn, damn, I know who I am. And so it's just like one of those things. It's like I'm easily doxable. I might as well just be exactly who I am. I came in under
Right.
my real name, and if
Hmm.
you can look up my information and you can look up my background and this, that, and the third, you know what? I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. Y'all'll be fine. And
Yeah.
let's keep it moving.
Yep.
Y'all
Yeah.
can Joan, I can Joan too. What's good? And yeah, that's how I've been looking at it. But I
Yeah.
wanted to get off into
Shall
another
we?
question, honey.
Hmm.
You had said something, and I had thought about this for a minute. I was thinking about this because I've had this conversation with Concrete as well. And you was talking about being with somebody you want, and you wanting them to want you, and you want to
Hmm.
want them.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what you thought about that in regards to how um Black women look at relationships and Black women's standards. Black women will kind of dismiss a guy because he ain't got on no Gucci shoes. He got on some raggedy ass Wranglers. He may not be well dressed, but he may not just meet all their standards. And a lot of women will dismiss a man
Hmm.
because he doesn't meet all their standards. And I wanted to know your thought process as far as like being with somebody you want and vice versa. And yeah, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on that.
I call that a prostitute mindset.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's a prostitute mindset though. When you
Okay.
look for a man with money, like what do prostitutes do? Um, when I say that, I want a man to want me versus needing me. I want to want him versus needing him. Um, a lot of people get into relationships speak for money because that person takes care of them, right? So say someone's in a relationship and the person is taking care of them. What happens when the person can no longer take care of them? They are going to leave that person and they're going to go find someone else that can take care of them. That's how it really goes because they were only attached to that person for taking care of them. That's why I said I want to want somebody. And when I say want somebody, I'm saying get to know their mind, their heart. What kind of person are they? How do they treat other people? You know what I mean? How do they treat my children? Are they confident about themselves? Like that's what I want to know about a man. I don't want to need a man in the aspect of him taking care of me. I'm attracted to where he works, what he makes, what he wears. That's not always who we are. We could be, and I know that y'all can understand this. There's been seasons where we've been doing really, really great, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other seasons where we've been down and out. I've had seasons where I'm doing really, really great and I've been homeless. But I want somebody to love me when I'm doing great and when I'm homeless, or when I'm down and out or I'm doing bad. I don't want somebody to just be attached to me or be in a relationship with me because I'm doing good at the moment. Because what about when I go through that season where I'm not? And we have to be honest. God is going to take you through that season. And I don't know who this is for. It's not about the fact that he wants to punish you. He need to take you through a season of hurt and pain and being down and out to show you the people around you. If people are attached to you for money, he's going to take your money away
Mm.
until them people get away from you. If it was your car, your job, where you live, he's going to take it all away until those snakes get away from you. Then he's going to restore you. Once you learn, because you're going to see, like, well, Dad, when I had money, they was around. You know what I mean? When I had a car, they was calling me every day. They want that. You don't have that no more. So they're
Mm.
gone. So then once you realize that ain't my friend, that's not who I'm supposed to be with, then God's going to restore you. So that's why I say want versus need.
Mm-hmm.
I
Do
don't
you?
want, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, do you feel that men want to be needed? Because what being in this space, a lot of men talk about when women say we want the guy versus need. I want a man, but I don't need a man. A lot of black men kind of get offended by that, because they have a need to feel needed, and I think a lot of men are kind of biologically wired to. They want to feel needed because it kind of boosts masculinity, ego, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I want to know your opinion in regards to that, like men wanting to
I
feel
mean,
needed.
there's a thin line between, men wanting to be needed, right? Um, a lot of men, I, this is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say that I want to want you, and then when we get into a relationship, I want us to need each other
Okay.
in a certain way. But let's not start the relationship off with somebody with them needing you, because it's
Mm.
it's like an emergency relationship at that point. And I've seen so many of them fail because people get on their feet and they leave because they don't need you no more. They only got with you because you were security. Get to know a person and who they are. Then while we're in a relationship, then we can need each other. But I need a man to need me too. I
Yeah.
know how to need him. Let's need each other. But I need some men to stop being needed at the beginning, because that's how a lot of men get used. And a
Uh-oh.
lot of men are feeling like, society has made a lot of men feel like their only their only value is their money. So a lot of men feel like, oh, I gotta come to this relationship with money. Oh, I gotta have money. I need her to need me for my money. No, stop doing that.
But on the flip side of that, like, for example, I'm seeing lots of comments of men in the comments, and this is and this is no shade. I mean, it is
Okay.
shade. this is shade to my chat. A lot of men in the comments are like, oh, well then, if you, by you saying that, by you saying all that you've just said, that a man, shouldn't be, you shouldn't be essentially needing a man for his money through the gate. They go to the opposite extreme and say, oh, well then you must be interested in a pookie. So like, and I've been very careful in my messaging to women regarding lowering their standards, because I feel like we did have an epidemic of women who were settling for any and everything. And I think that that's a very dangerous thing. So I think that it's important to have standards, but I also think that it's important to be logical, to be realistic as well. And so what say you to, people who feel that, that they're developing a standard by having a man, like through the gate, having these expectations for a man, that he come in being willing to and able to spend, that it's simply them developing standards for themselves.
And them responding in the chat like that, like, oh, that person must want a pookie, that doesn't mean that.
Right.
People are so out of touch with real relationships. You don't see a lot of real relationships out here anymore. You've seen them with our grandparents and our great-grandparents, but you're not seeing love. Mm-hmm. You're seeing people making relationships a business. And people will say this, or a relationship is a business. No, a relationship is not supposed to be a business. That's not how it's supposed to be. We see situations all the time where you have a relationship and someone in the relationship gets sick. And the other person leaves. They don't stay by their side. They go and find someone else that's not sick. I want someone to be by my side whether I'm sick or not. I'm gonna be with them whether they're sick or not. You see what I'm saying? It's like the most hurtful thing is for you to be in a relationship with somebody, you to go through something and that person walk away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They didn't really care about you.
Right.
Where does the love and the care come from? They're making relationships too materialistic. And that's not what it's about. It's not about material things come and go. Cars come and go. Houses get foreclosed on. You get evicted. Jobs,
you lose your job. Companies go under,
Right. So it's like, why are we basing relationships on that? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. In regards to, let's just say in a relationship, you have a man and woman, and I say certain aspects of it is definitely going to be about business, because you have to take care of your household. If you guys are both working, money management, what you're going to invest in. If you have somebody that overspends or isn't good with managing money, those, certain aspects like that, I would say would be the business part. But I don't think it should be like a transactional
Right.
type of deal. And I think what you're getting down to is the transactional aspect of it. So I totally understand.
Right. I mean, okay. So, Sister George, let me ask you a question. Would you appreciate a man coming and getting with you because you have money?
Oh no, baby.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Whoever wants to feel like that. I want a man to want to be with me because of who I am, not how much money I make, not what I drive, not where I live, because who knows in the next season that might not be it. But see, people are going off of they're going off of man-made standards. They're not going off of godly standards. And that's where people go wrong. Oh, I got these standards. Baby, standards be too high. You want a man that make $100,000 and you get food stamps. What are we talking about?
I think that that's interesting, but I'm actually going to use this to pivot a bit. So when we talk about standards, speaking of standards, I've heard people say that the lack of standards that we have in our community is the reason for us having or allowing or permitting things like Chris Brown, for example, who, we know the situation with Chris Brown and Rihanna for being so forgiving and allowing people like a Chris Brown to still profit off of the community, to still make music that we listen to every day and that we popularize by, making TikTok dances off of, and, supporting him by way of his concerts and all the things. That the fact that we don't have high enough standards for one another. And to me, that's where the confusion comes into place. I saw where you had some very interesting opinions on the recent events regarding Chris Brown, where he came out highlighting that he thought that it was completely unfair, that it's been, over a decade, and people won't let him live down the incident that happened with Rihanna, where him and Rihanna got into an altercation. Rihanna's face was bruised, and he said that he paid his debt to society, and he felt as though his nose has been cleaned since then, and we yet and still glorify situations like a Krishan and Blueface by watching them on TV, giving them a platform every day. And he names some other, white actors and white people who are not held to the same standard. And you have some interesting opinions about that. So what say you regarding us having too lax standards? And did you also want to talk a little bit about your overall opinions on Chris Brown's thoughts about his own situation?
I do feel like that, it's I feel like it was a lot of women. It could have been some men too. I've seen a lot of, black women, still holding this man accountable for what he did. But my thing is, you can't hold Chris Brown accountable and then come in and highlight Cardi B when Cardi B came to the table and Cardi B said, I used to rob and set men up. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm gonna come to the table with a real conversation. You can't do that. I can't even trust you, because how can you condone her for doing that, but then sit up here and try to convict him for doing this? They have made her beyond famous. Yeah. And they overlooked that she was setting someone's son up, someone's brother, someone, you know what I mean? Someone's nephew, someone's family member, and they could have been killed. And who knows if someone wasn't? And then with Blueface and them, they have made them extremely famous. Extremely famous. And that relationship is so toxic. But you know what's so crazy? They have a show that's through the roof, ratings through the roof. Anything, listen, that girl could stick her tongue out and they're reporting on it because people want to see it. I see a whole bunch of black women in those comments. It's a few saying, oh, it's toxic, this, that, and the third. Y'all gave them a platform down. Y'all gave him a platform. But y'all want to sit up here and continue to treat Chris Brown like that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I haven't heard about him doing anything. Even when that girl tried to lie on Chris Brown and say that that he raped her, they convicted him again. And how about he had proof that he didn't rape her? He ain't getting no apology. It's a double standard. It's not right, and it's not cool. It's fake to me. It's fake. How they don't convict women, but they try to convict black men. It's fake. But they do that because they hate black men. They're not doing that because right is right, wrong is wrong. They hate black men deep down inside, and they keep that down inside for a long time. Look how long it's been.
Yeah, that's a good point. Danny, were you going to ask a follow-up question, or did you want me to go?
Yes. So when it comes down to Chris Brown, we recently did a show on our sister channel, Tough Talk, about Chris Brown, and the story that never ever got out was like the incident between him and Rihanna. Rihanna's incident went viral, of course, because she was bruised, her face was bruised, really, really bad, but until recently, and when we did the Tough Talk, that's actually when I saw his side of the story. And he said that they were actually fighting in the car. She was biting him, she was punching him, she grabbed his testicles. He was saying they were going down, I think down the highway or something. And it was just a really, really volatile, dangerous situation. And nobody ever thought to put his story, being that it's Rihanna, light skinned girl, a
Right.
superstar,
Yeah.
nobody wants to put the whole entire story out there because then there will be some account for her to be held at.
Right.
Now, that being said, I have seen things from Chris Brown that still wouldn't make me defend him as a
Mhm.
black woman, because then when it comes down to the darker skin hues of black women and how he's been kind of anti, not letting them in sections, I don't like that kind of stuff. But and then is other incidences with women like Karuchi where she's had a restraining order against him. He was standing outside of her show. You remember the famous pose where he's sitting there, looking at her and stuff. And it was like things like that would kind of make me second guess, but I don't know how I feel about the domestic violence aspect now. With the Rihanna situation, I do feel that they both participated in that situation.
Right.
They both should have been held to account for it.
Yeah.
But he's walking around with the scarlet letter while she was allowed to abuse him and go on to do Super Bowl shows. She got line
Mhm.
on top of line,
Yeah.
and nobody has blinked an eye. And I
Yeah.
I
Right.
kind of feel like there's definitely a double standard right there.
Right. And do you
I
know a lot of
agree.
people, what you said, a lot of people didn't even know that. And there's a lot of situations where men, especially black men, are just made to be the villain. And the woman is
Mhm.
made to be the victim. Because you know why? Nobody's looking for that man's side of the story, and that's wrong.
Yes.
It's
I
wrong.
agree with that. Like,
It
in
is
the
wrong.
the crazy part is too, I'm not familiar with him like stalking Karuchi,
Me
but
neither.
like I wouldn't say it for me. Even him being a colorist, to me, there's plenty of documentation that Chris Brown is a colorist. But I say, it's whether or not he's a colorist, I still don't feel like he should still have to pay a debt from when he was 19, 15 years later, and he's complied with the courts. He's done everything that he was required to do. Like, I
Right.
can put my personal feelings aside about him being a colorist and still be honest in because if it were my son, my father, I wouldn't want them to still be, I wouldn't want them to be held to a higher standard than someone else and continuously be punished for a crime that they paid their debt to society for. So I can put my personal feelings aside and still say, I don't think that, he should continue to be punished for something that he's paid his debt for, personally, in my opinion. But I do have a question for you when we talk about women and, in reference to women, do you feel that women are allowed to make mistakes and be redeemed for them? Because when we think about even a situation like Centoya Brown, or we think about, there was a situation where a young girl, her name escapes me, in Iowa, she unalived somebody who she alleged was a John, and not the pimp, but the John, and she was 15, and she got off pretty much scot free, and the courts essentially just said she had to pay like $100,000, which is part of the law. They weren't like doing something sinister to her. That was actually something that they could not override. So she did have to pay the $100,000 restitution, and I think there was a GoFundMe that within 24 hours they raised like $350,000 to pay her restitution, and she still escaped from the halfway, or not the halfway house, the
I know you're talking about.
communal living place that she was living in. And people were still rallying for her, rooting for her, saying they hope she got away, despite the fact that the judge was essentially giving her an awesome, opportunity. He was having, part of her court order was that she go to college, she get her, like, he was putting programs in place to ensure that she could, live a whole fulfilled life. And so, looking at situations like that, then you have the John Morant, the Chris Brown. Do you think that, there is a clear and present double standard where women are allowed to be forgiven for their mistakes and allowed to redeem themselves, and our young black men aren't?
Yeah. The case you're talking about, she was a minor, am I right?
Yeah, she was 15. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was a
Mm-hmm.
minor. I really like wouldn't incorporate that, But what I would say is people have more compassion for Black women than they do Black men. Let's use the mother in Texas. You might have heard about this. The mom that went to Alabama, left her 2 young children in the house by herself.
I did.
And I posted about this story because I'm gonna tell you something. It didn't get a lot of headline like other stories do. A few people posted about it. But when I posted it, there were so many women in my comments making excuses. And I said, you know, I can't respect that because as a mother, you don't leave your children in Texas, 12 and 5, I think it was. So you basically made your 12-year-old you gave your 12-year-old the responsibility of being a mother to a 5-year-old. And you went to Alabama and did whatever you were doing, posting on Facebook, posting her butt and, you know, men on there
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, good.
Okay. Now I know what
Hold up. Absolutely not. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? And women were in my comments talking about, well, something had to be wrong with her. She had to have a mental illness. And you make up all these excuses for bad behavior is bad behavior.
Facts.
I
It don't
see it
matter
every
if
day.
you a man or a woman. Bad behavior is bad behavior. If that was a Black man, they would have tried to hang him, execute him, all that. It would have been viral, out of this world. So yes, I feel like our community handles things differently. There's more compassion when it comes to a woman and when she does things and when she messes up. There's no compassion for the Black man. There's none.
I agree. And then when you look at, and that's why I use that situation, because what did Chris Brown say? He was what, 17 in that situation? She was 15. They're both young adults. Like their reasoning isn't developed in either one of those situations. Even when we look at Jay Morant, your reasoning isn't fully developed for most people until age 25 or later in some instances. So like literally, and I get, and I believe in people being able to redeem themselves. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't forgive Black women, Black young girls who, had it hard, had a hard life. But I'm saying, let's give Black young men that same grace. Let's give them the same grace.
Exactly. That same compassion. Let me tell you something. In our community, it's getting so bad that Black women are getting away with a lot of things. They're getting away with a lot. We don't talk about, when people say Chris Brown is a colorist, other Black women come down on other Black women about being dark skinned. Light skinned Black women come down on other, dark skinned Black women. Why are we talking about that at a high rate? You see what I'm saying? Why we come to the table and talk about that? Because it's wrong. It's some light-skinned women that think that they're better than women of darker shades. We don't come and talk about that, but y'all want to talk about Chris Brown being colorist. Black women are colorists against other Black women.
Oh yeah.
Talk about that first. You see what I'm saying? Then you have the Black women that are sitting up here abusing their children. And you know why Black women can abuse their children and get away with it for so long? Because nobody holds Black women accountable. Nobody holds Black women accountable. There's no accountability. They're not taking responsibility, so they can just be manipulative. They can hurt their children. They can do whatever they want to do, and it's going to go on for years. Let a Black man do that. It's immediately addressed. He's immediately going to jail. These women, let me say something. These women are sitting up and giving men, pedophile men, access to their children. Nobody's saying nothing about that though. Children been molested for years. Had to go through that for years. I know a young woman I'm in contact with right now. Her stepdad was molesting her for years. Her mom, he's in prison right now. Her mom was still with him. He had a going away party for him and everything before he went to prison. I wouldn't have showed up at that party.
Wow.
For what? Are you kidding me right now?
Wow.
No accountability. They're not held responsible for nothing. You can sit up and you can keep your child from their father, but give a man that want to sleep with them and touch them access to them. How do they These are the conversations that aren't had though.
Yeah. Let me read the super chats. A shout out to Uncle Stu, old man on the block. He says, salute, salute the best three women in the house. Amen to that. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Uncle
that, Uncle
Stu.
Stu. And B, you gonna be all right, honey. But shout out to you anyway. He said
Oh
high
my gosh.
concrete. Kudos for having a guest this week who isn't a nutcase.
Oh my gosh.
Shalakemia seems loyal to her subs, unlike someone whose name rhymes with Fanny, who I won't mention. Anyway, have a good show. Concrete.
B, you just messy as all get out. B, you do not have to be that messy. You do not.
Talking about rhymes with Fanny.
He's ridiculous. Oh
Yeah,
my
you
gosh.
tired. Uh shout out to Eugene Steele. He said God gave them their attributes and figures because God gave them assignments. But because some men abuse their features and attributes, all men are stereotyped as aggressive. Thank you so much for that, Eugene. I appreciate that. Okay. He said he asked for you to read it. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, B.
Sorry.
I got you next time, boo. I do have a question for you though. Um, do you do you think like I think this was on our sister station, or did we talk about this a minute ago? We talked about this earlier today, and yeah, I'm delirious because I'm so tired. But where we were highlighting the high rates of just earlier, just a little bit ago, high rates of suicide in men and Black men specifically. And to me, part of that high rate of suicide in men, and I've seen lots of studies that said this too, is there's a lot of undue stress on men. Like, men carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and I think that as women, as a community of people, that we play a role by creating these unrealistic standards of perfection, but for men, that like essentially you can't make a mistake. That if you make a mistake, that you will not be forgiven, especially for our young boys. When we look at like Jay Morant, and I certainly want to get your take on that whole situation, where we know, he's 23, he comes from the hood, he clearly has made a series of bad decisions, and he's paying the financial price for them. And we don't even know what the ultimate outcome will be for his punishment because of the mistakes or because of the choices that he made. However, I've seen a plethora of comments, and they're not just from Black women, from the Black community, like hanging this man essentially. I mean, just very, he's stupid, he's an idiot, he's a fool. How, like, he's everything but a child of God, and we're very hard on him, and I think about like the undue stress that men have and these standards of perfection. Not to say he was far from perfect. However, there's very little room for Black men to make mistakes and be redeemed once doing it. So I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that statement, and also what your thoughts are on the whole Ja Morant situation, and if he will be able to redeem himself.
I think that that's so true. There's no room for error with them. I posted a video, I'm not sure if y'all seen it, with a young boy. He had to be no more than 13. And he's Black. His mother, he was on a show. I forget what the show's called. But the show host said, it's something that your mom said to you that, made you
I
feel
seen
way.
it.
What did she say? He said that my mom said that she hated me and she wished I was dead. And do we know at that age what that does to the mental health of a young man? And my point in bringing awareness to that is that, do you understand how she just tore him down? The one of the two people outside of his father that you are supposed to trust. You are supposed to be able to trust your mother. When your mother comes and says something like that, how do you trust her? How do you love her? How do you not look at her different? How do you not look at Black women different? So now he's going to grow up, probably get in a relationship with a woman and project on her. Why? Because of something his mom started. I feel like with a lot of black men, we're not compassionate enough, and we're not looking at what they've been through. Us black women, we're we voice it. You know, I was abused when I was younger. I went through this, I went through that. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is why she's the way she is. We're so sorry. How can we help? Black men don't get that. It's like you can handle it. This is what people say to black. You can handle it. You strong. Suck it up. No, they're human like we're human. They go through things like we go through things. Imagine a black man that had been molested and can't talk about it because why? Society's gonna say they're gay. That's their response. So black men that have been molested and raped, you're gay. What?
Shalakemia, is that you knocking?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can hear tapping.
There's a tap, a
You hear
knocking or a
now?
tap. No,
Nope.
Okay. I'm not.
it comes and goes.
Okay. But yeah, I'm saying like that's the response. If a woman says she was raped, everybody's very compassionate. She supported. We're not supporting our black men in that space. They didn't ask that. They didn't, you know what I mean? Like, who asked to be molested? Who asks to be raped? And I've had, and surprisingly, me being in this space, a lot of black men have vented to me and told me they were molested by women and men growing up, but they could never tell anybody. So they're walking around with a burden that they didn't bear on themselves and no one to talk to about it. So I'm not making any excuses for any bad behavior. I'm not. But I feel like mental health plays a big part. Where is their counseling? Where is their anger management? Where is their outlet? We all need that. But they don't get it. That guy that you were talking about, I'm not familiar with his situation.
Oh, okay.
And
It
what
was
he
the
did. I'm not
basketball
familiar.
player. He's 23 years old, and he had posted a picture of himself with the pew pew on his IG, and he plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he has this big contract, and he was actually in Denver, so at an away game, and he foolishly posted a picture of himself with a pew pew, and as a result of that, he was immediately suspended, and he is facing possible suspension of up to 50 games because you can't have a pew pew on, like NBA property or anything like that. And they're trying to figure out how he got it because he was at an away game, and I think they must have traveled via the NBA transportation. And like I said, he's 23. He has been allegedly seen like throwing up Crip signs, like I guess on like when he's like winning and he's excited, he's like throwing up Crip signs on like the basketball floor, on like the arena floor. He I think like, videos flashing money. I think he also slapped someone. So he's gotten into quite a bit of trouble, and people are saying they're like, I've seen mixed reviews. This could turn out to be another Aaron Hernandez situation. So it's good that they nip it in the bud now, and then they should get him out of there. And he's been given this opportunity, and literally an opportunity that is changing your life and the life of your family members. And then you go and jag it off by doing something so foolish and trying to still be relevant in the hood by posting with that. But then we've heard from actual basketball players, I can't think of who it was, oh, his name escapes me, who have said that, they struggle too making that transition to the NBA, that, coming from the hood, you kind of, you struggle trying to break away from that life, and that it took them a couple years, and they were doing knucklehead stuff the first couple years. Oh gosh, who was that? I can't. Dominique Wilkins, I forgot who it was. But anyways, what he did was completely foolish. He should be, face some sort of consequences for what he did, because it was dumb. And I think if not, he could do worse things. But I'm just wondering, can he possibly redeem himself? Should he lose his entire career for the things that he's done?
I don't think he should lose everything. But can I just say something really quick? Can we stop addressing black men as niggas, please?
I don't, but yeah.
Not
Yeah,
y'all.
no,
I seen
yeah,
a
no, I
comment.
know.
No, I seen a comment, and I
Oh,
don't understand why we address them in that way. We don't want them to address us as beings, So why should we address them in
yeah.
that way? Um, I feel like he can redeem himself. One thing that sticks out to me is you said that he was throwing up gang signs, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, I don't understand, and people might not, be in favor of this. I don't understand why people have a problem with him doing that.
With gang
When
signs?
Wait,
yeah,
really?
I'm going to explain.
Okay.
Um, it's like, why are we highlighting that he's doing that when other people do the same thing? We need to address it as a whole, though. So and we also have to understand where some of these men come from. Some of these men, I don't even like to really call them gangs. I really, will call them organizations, because um I don't really look at them as gangs. I know some organizations that, they're like more like brotherhoods that a lot of people
Mm,
won't see, because they don't show that part of it. They just show people, the gang banging part of some of these organizations, because that's what they want people to see. They don't show you the togetherness. They don't show you the brotherhood of some of these organizations. They just don't. But why don't they do the same thing with the people in the KKK?
I think
Why don't
when
they?
it
And I'm not justifying what's going on. I'm saying, why
good
only do
point.
it to black people? That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
White people
Mm-hmm.
throw up certain signs and all type of things all the time. They're not taking
Mm.
their money. They're not taking contracts. They're not doing none of
Facts.
that. They're not doing that.
Facts. We don't
I
even hear about it. Like when
well
it's biker
I
gangs and they have their
Yeah, they
patches, their
do.
emblems.
Their
That's a
flags
point.
and everything. They justify why they can have those kind of things. Why don't they label them as gangs?
but what about the aspect of, okay, so as a person that was in a gang before, um there are certain aspects of gang culture that is hella manipulative to young boys
Right.
that's coming up, and you have older men who have them out doing things that are illegal. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and in a brotherhood aspect, I think that's, I don't get me wrong, I do think that's a portion of it, but there's a big portion of it that's manipulative, crime written, and just all out wrong. And then
Uh-huh.
when it comes down to boys, like with Jay Morant, I think a lot of people look at it as though you are out of a situation to where you don't have to do these things anymore because you have a certain lifestyle. You've been able to obtain the money. You were number two drafted, number two in the
Wow.
number two. Um, and so a lot of people will kind of hold him to account because they're saying these are things that you don't have to do. You're not in the same position, but I think there's a mentality that even if you get the money, the mentality may still be there. And people
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about what types of mentality and how long those types of like how long that takes that type of programming to undo, because you
That
don't
Exactly.
part.
just end up away overnight. You
Exactly.
when you just throw, and look at rappers. Look at rappers.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking
That's a
somebody
good
out of
point.
the deepest part of the
Right.
hood and you giving them millions of dollars, and you're not giving them
Exactly.
financial counseling. You're not. But the difference between Jay Morant, though, the difference between Jay Morant as opposed to a rapper, the NBA does focus on training them on certain
Yeah.
aspects of like money management, how quick and fast that a lot of black players or players in general go broke. And so with him, I think people are probably going to be a little less forgiving because they feel like, well, you got all these things, you
But
know.
it's psychological. Like, yeah, in the NBA and these organizations, they do have a lot of resources set up to try to set you up for success, and I think that that's dope. They're doing a lot better than a lot of other industries, but a lot of it is psychological, and we still can't ignore that piece that it's still going to take time and happen over time. But when we talk about gang signs, I ain't even gonna lie. I ain't never been nowhere near no gang. However, when I was a kid, I was like, 11 to 13, I used to be with my little girlfriends, and mind you, we lived in the middle of a cornfield, but it was just a few Black girls, and we swore we were like lady gangsters. You couldn't tell us that we wasn't. So we would be like seeing gang signs and throwing up, like didn't even know how to do it correctly, but not at 20 something. So, but I do like understand the ignorance, and I do know that people think, oh, like my nephews, I have nephews that my sister's like, I found pictures on his social media where he's throwing up gangs. Her baby don't know nothing about no gang. Granted, he's 13 years old, but still, like, so I do know people do it because it's cool and they're not necessarily gang affiliated. Nonetheless, it does signify a problem, a serious one that does need to be addressed. And it could, and I know that gangs didn't originally start out that way. I know that there were some, the origin of gangs were brotherhood, and some of them were political organizations. So I understand what you're saying behind that too. But like, we know what the Crips is about for the most part too. So I do think it's cause for pause, if nothing else.
I don't, to be honest, I really don't feel like that. I've spoke to many men in high positions, and they're affiliated, but they're in the community. They're coaching these young men, have programs, to try to save these young men from, going to prison and getting into those different things. I feel like society and the media makes these different organizations what they are. There's a good and a bad to everything. Can we agree on that? There's a good and a bad to everything.
Yeah.
And everybody that's committing a crime isn't affiliated.
I agree. There's a good and a bad to everything, and these the police organizations will try to associate every crime to a gang. And I do know that, like, first of all, two things. A lot of people turn to gangs as family, as protection, as your mom is on drugs or something like that. Like literally as a as protection and as family. Like people from like that's how you eating. That's how you eating because you wouldn't otherwise. So you like this is all you have as a family. So I understand that too, and I understand what like from like a hood aspect. Although I lived in the middle of a cornfield. When I started dating my ex, like he was from the south side of Chicago and he was from the Hundreds, and we went back very frequently. So I understood one thing about gang culture. When they're like in the inner city of Chicago, when there was somebody that was a good athlete, you wasn't getting into no gang activities. They weren't letting you. The drug dealers was buying your shoes, your clothes. They was giving you money for school. But if you were to ever become successful, you owe dues too. It's kind of like you owe the community because the community, look, they made you literally, you had the freshest of everything. Like the community, the gangs, the drug dealers, whomever took care of those who they thought, had potential.
And they took care of the community.
Yeah. They didn't want you getting involved in street activity because they didn't want you jagging off your opportunity because they felt like you can make it,
Right. My thing is why don't they ever speak on white gangs? They don't even, I mean, let's be real, let's have a real conversation. They don't label them as gangs though. Nope. But they want us to have a bad outlook on Crips and Bloods and GDs, and they want us to have this bad outlook. And I really can't have a bad outlook because a lot of them are doing a lot of good. There's a gang banging side, and then there's a side where these men are being productive in the community. Very productive. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to show them being productive though, because they don't want us to have that type of outlook. And that's why we have to do our own research and develop our own thing about them. We can't go off what they say because the KKK, I'm in Pennsylvania. They meet up in this other city, and it's illegal for them to get together, the KKK, and march around with their white hoods on and everything, but they're not considered a gang.
They won't even label them a domestic terrorist group.
They're killing people.
But
too.
You know what? The NOI is the NOI. The Nation of Islam is deemed as a domestic terrorist group. but the KKK isn't.
But the
It's
KKK
wild.
ain't nothing. And they'll like
Yeah.
people have sat up here, in Pennsylvania and said, why are they allowed to do that? We know what they're about.
Yeah.
That's the gang. If we want to be real, that's the gang. That's the gang against Black people. They hate Black people.
Yep.
But why aren't they
Yeah.
talking about the flags that they have, the signs that they throw up, the things that they do? But they want to talk about this young Black man that came from the hood. That probably the Crips was probably, his family. They probably looked out for him. It was like a brotherhood for him, whatever it was for him. But they want to highlight that. But they don't want to highlight the gang against Black people. I can't go with that. And I'm not sitting up here saying that people aren't robbing and stealing and there's a gang things. I'm not saying that. But let's not just come to the table and talk about the gang banging side of things when a lot of these men are being productive. That's wrong.
Wow.
I'm gonna read the super chats and then I have a question for you. Shout out to Black Wizard. He says, "I love your compassion. Thank you for showing up today." And Shalakemi, I know that's directed towards you because
I'm sure it's for everybody.
Because he'll never tell us stuff like that. So it
No.
gotta be Shalakemia.
at all. Shout out to Dane C. He says the Ray Rice domestic violence situation changed the game with how professional sports leagues respond to players off the field bad behaviors. I actually agree with that, Dane. I think that's a good point. Shout out to Andrew Wilkins. He says gang signs are Masonic signs. Bloods and Crips both do the peace sign, Masonic kingpin sign. The triple sixes, a satanic sign is thrown up when players hit threes, which is I don't want to
Oh,
throw
I
it
didn't
up.
know that.
With
I
the
didn't know that either.
like the
But I did know that the 6-point star was like, which is the Star of David, is used for like GDs. Like, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's in the Bible. Y'all shouldn't, but they use the 6-point star as their.
Don't talk about my. Never mind, child.
I did know that.
Don't talk about. I'm real red. I should have. Never mind, child. Don't talk.
Listen, somehow I know that.
Shout out to Black Wizard. He says he may not have meant anything by it, but gang signs have consequences. It attracts a certain kind of attention. If I'd say don't throw them up if you don't want the kind of attention that comes with it. Thank you so much for that. That was a good point. Shout out to Koja Malik. She says climbing Bammy Mountain. Baby, y'all can't hold it. Y'all can't hold it. Y'all got to relax, baby. Relax, relax, relax. Shout out to Eugene Steele again. Thank you so much, Eugene. He says fraternities and sororities in the Divine Nine have signs too.
That's true.
And they beat your ass for initiations and stuff too, honey. You going through probably a worse initiation than what you would go through a game.
Exactly. So would he be ostracized? Would there be bad press if he was throwing up Divine Nine signs?
I'm telling y'all, it's because they want us to view those organizations as bad because those organizations, to be honest with you, they're a threat. They're a threat. They have a certain system, not the gang banging side of things, but they have a certain system that threatens other systems. You have to understand that. Their togetherness, their brotherhood, and I know it's women in there too, but it threatens the system. But then, like you said, fraternity have signs. Nobody's offended. Nobody's offended. People, they come up against what they're threatened by. A lot of different organizations have signs. It's not just Bloods and Crips and GDs and come on, but that's the only people they're going to highlight because they're a threat. Yes. And we have to be conscious of that.
Now I have a question for you, and this is concerning Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty. And so I had kind of made an observation that I think people are willing to let Kenneth Petty forgive Kenneth Petty. Initially, when the allegations and charges and stuff, all that stuff came to light, a lot of women were like, F Nicki, F Kenneth, F all of that stuff, F them, we're not dealing with it. And then she comes out with a new single, and you don't have the same response in regards to her husband as there once was. And I think it's almost to a point to where a lot of it has kind of died down
Mm-hmm.
because of her positioning. And I wanted to know your thought process on that. Did you see a die down with it? And what do you think about him being held accountable and redemption for him or men like him?
Um, I've been on the fence a lot. I love Nicki Minaj. I used to really really love her, and I said I love her now. Um, that right there kind of put me on the fence a little bit. But then leave that comment up there. I want to say something to that. When I'm done. Um, I was kind of on the fence because there was things that came out about the woman that were kind of questionable. So and then when I was reading about like the details of the case, it was more of like her word against his. I'm not saying he didn't do it or he did do it. I don't know. But I didn't know anything about it until he started being with Nicki Minaj. And then the fact and this is what I have this is my problem with a lot of sexual assault cases and rape cases. If hypothetically if I was raped or I was sexually assaulted, I'm not looking for compensation. You can never compensate for raping me, or you can't compensate for that. That part kind of confused me, y'all. And I don't know if y'all read that part about the money. That kind of confused me.
I've seen that, and to me, I kind of feel like this. I feel like there's a place for compensation for a sexual assault victim, because I do think I know people that have been sexually assaulted when they were children and they're still reeling from the effects of it. So I do think that you could potentially be have like a lifetime of therapy. So I do think that there is a place for some compensation. But my issue with it is this: when I see the women who solely go after compensation. So Kenneth Petty actually did do time for his charges. There was criminal and a civil complaint. But if you notice, in a lot of these situations, I think even most in a lot of these situations, you have women who solely go after civil, like a civil case. They don't even pursue a criminal complaint. How is that? So you don't care if he's able to do this to someone else. That in and of itself is mind-boggling to me. And or the women who will do like Deborah Lee did and say, I was in a consensual relationship with him, and Deborah Lee of BET, and say, I was in a consensual relationship with him, and he told me if I wanted to keep my career, I had to keep this relationship going. So you willingly kept the relationship going because you didn't want to lose something that you saw beneficial to you. I see that as problematic.
You hurt another woman, though. You hurt another woman, though. And that's the part I couldn't respect. Like, why would you be sleeping with that woman's husband? Like, you could have went and got your own man.
She had one.
I mean, that's how I feel. She could have went and got her own man, but she went to sleep with this woman's husband. And then this woman, and let's think about it. If I was that woman, I'd be sitting up like, these people praised her for all these years, for all this stuff, and she was sleeping with my husband. You see what I'm saying? Like, I would feel like, well, dang, like, that's a slap in the face. The whole world feels like this about Deborah Lee, and she was sitting up here sleeping with my husband the whole time.
And she's literally associating what happened with her to Me Too. Like, no, sis, that's not that. Baby, the leaps and bounds that they make. Yeah, that was kind of wild.
I wanted to kind of weigh in on the Nikki thing. I think that when it comes down to accountability or redemption, it's about who's popular. You get all types of redemption if you're deemed as popular or what people want to see. Just like when we talk about Christian Rock and Blueface, people are attracted to Christian Rock's personality, and so they want to see Christian Rock cut up and act a damn fool. And then even when it came down to Nicki Minaj, it was one of those things to where he was tried and convicted, and I look at it not that you can take every case and say, okay, A, B, C, D happened, but a lot of things that I saw from the girl, some of the things were shaky, but there were some things that I actually believed about the case from her account. And
Mhm.
so I look at it, and I'm my thought process was the same black women who will talk about what men are doing to them, and they're unaliving us every 5 hours, and they're
Mhm.
doing this and they're doing that. But then when it comes to a case that's uh, where a man was tried and convicted, you have the woman's testimony and everything else. Those same women become quiet as church mice when it comes down to holding men like that accountable. And then we've had instances where we've seen people in this very space who have had multiple charges where it came to assaulting. If they weren't sexually assaulting, then they were beating women. And
Right.
you still have women that will go support, but then will sit
Yeah.
around and point the finger at everybody else
Yeah.
like it's nothing. And I just personally, I think there are certain people that there aren't any redemption for, period. But I look at it on men and women. So if it came
Mhm.
down to a
I
woman
agree.
doing the sexual assault, you don't get a pass. It's do not pass.
But some
I
people,
don't have
they
it in
do
my
give
heart
them
to
a
forgive for
pass.
that.
They do give them a pass. Like, have you
Yeah.
heard about the
Yeah.
teacher that was sexually abusing her students?
We did a tough talk on it this
Yeah.
morning. We
Yeah, we
literally
actually
talked about
did.
it
Okay,
And
this
there's been like
good.
3 or 4 to come out. There was a lunch lady, there's been
Yes.
a teacher, there's been like 3 or 4 in the last week that have come
Yes.
out.
Do you see
It's
that that story
ridiculous.
is not on major platforms?
Yep.
It's
It is
not.
not
You're
on
right.
major platforms. You see,
Mhm.
smaller platforms, speaking about it. There has been no major coverage on that. Why? Why?
The complexion for protection for one.
Yeah,
But
it's
then
because
you know what? I can't even say that because we do the same thing in our community as it pertains to black women victimizing boys. Black women are the white women of the black community when it comes down to
Because
sexual
it's a
assault.
boy. If it was a
Yeah.
girl, it would be completely different. If
I'm
it
talking
was
about the black woman, y'all. The black
I
woman
didn't see a
teacher.
black
Yeah,
woman
the black
sexually
woman
assaulted.
teacher
Oh,
saw
I didn't see
assaulted and
that.
was grooming her students.
I didn't
I
see that one.
posted it. I posted it on my page. I think like 2 days ago. It didn't get a lot of
Mm.
traction like that. For 1 minute to go back to Nicki Minaj, I heard a recording from the victim that kind of had me on the fence
Got you.
about I don't know if y'all heard that on social media. It was a recording going around from her where they had people start circulating it that kind of contradict her saying that he raped her.
It was
Did
I
you
heard the recording.
you heard it?
I did hear the recording, and I think that that was something that said that it was context about it because they talked about the recording, and then it was like not that she changed stuff up, but she had said some things at one point.
Mm-hmm.
She recanted her story because she
Yeah.
said
Mm.
she was receiving all types of threats
Yeah, and Nicki
from
Minaj had
people.
offered her, somebody from Nicki's camp offered her money.
Right.
Okay.
And then when it comes down to celebrity and what some people would do to stay on top, um I don't know. I've never I like this the whole thing, and then with Nicki Minaj's brother and her brother actually being convicted of
Right. Yeah.
that situation, and she was still supportive of her brother. It still kind of had now that's the thing that kind of makes me side eye a lot of those situations because I'm sitting there like,
Because it's been multiple, and I that's what I wanted to talk about. I want Shalakemia to be able to respond to this, but that ties into my next question regarding, like, as a community, should we have some set of standards, like that some things, like, you can't,
right,
like, aren't forgivable, like maybe you can't redeem yourself for
Mm,
certain things, like, because
right.
for me, I do believe that there are some things that we can't forget about, like some crimes that are so heinous that you commit against people that you should be ostracized. And this is coming, I'm an empath, and it took me a long time to get to this place. My husband is a conscious man, and he is very much Black power. And I used to be like, no, all Black people should be able to come. Like we need to be able to build an ark and all of our people can come. And he's like, nah, not everybody can come. And the more we started to dialogue about the subject, the more that I started to shift my mind around it. And I do believe that there are some sins that are committed against our people, against our children, against our babies that are unforgivable, and that they have to come from among us. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that, but I know you've been waiting to respond to this, so I wanted to allow you to.
Yeah, what she says, drug and gang culture is not positive. I feel like that's just like, I don't think that's a good statement to make, because when people make that statement, they're making that about Black people. They're not making that about other people. They're making that about Black people. How many white gangs do we have a conversation about? But see, we participate in the demise of our own people, because at the end of the day, we didn't bring drugs over here. We had no way to bring drugs over here. We didn't bring drugs here. Just to be honest, we didn't have that type of power to start bringing drugs over here. So who start supplying our community in the United States with drugs? But see, we sit up and it's people like this that just go off of the media and what society say. We got to start thinking for ourselves and get into the root of the problem. Why did people start getting in what the government labels as gangs instead of organizations? See, they can label their people as organizations, but label our people as gangs. But then comments like this, we participate in it. I don't participate in that. I just don't, because it's not right. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's I mean, any conscious person knows that's wrong. They don't label their people as gangs. You're actually right. Register them as organizations, but we're gangs though, and we participate like this.
I saw a recent news article where there was a huge drug and gun bust of some individuals that were associated with the biker gang, and they refused to call them a gang. The prosecutor was like very, he was like, I mean, there were like 15 people involved in this gang that were associated with the drugs and the guns, and he still made them individuals and isolated them from the gang, even though they're like the majority of the gang is involved in the drug dealing and and people were calling it out, like, so you refusing to associate, categorize them as a gang and acting as if, he was like, they are, how they were making this whatever the biker gang's name was a poor reflection on no, that is the biker gang. So you're right, they refuse to label themselves as gangs and as thugs.
But they'll glorify other aspects of their culture.
Exactly.
Even when it comes, like, if it comes down to like a mob movie and mobsters and people calling hits, well, we gonna go and we gonna watch all the movies. We sitting there big up in this shit. And it's glorified in the media is totally glorified. Like being a mobster is like, oh, it's cool.
We glorified too, though. Black people glorified too. Let me tell you something. Who didn't have that poster of what's his name? With the what's his name? Yeah, Scarface. Who didn't have a Scarface?
Glorifying it though, but then our people are always. It's like the KKK and all the other organizations we probably don't even know about. The breakdown of them, is up here, and they're registered as organizations. I know in Pennsylvania, they're registered as an organization. That's how they are able to go out there with their white hoods and march during the day. They're able to do that. But then Bloods and Crips and GDs and all the other people are down here. Oh, they're so bad, and they'll, they gang banging drugs, and who gave it to them?
But let me ask you a question. Do you think they contribute to their own imaging?
Who?
The Bloods and GDs. And I'm saying like
negative imaging.
Yeah.
I would say some. It depends on the individual. That's just like if we come together and we put together an organization for women, right? Mm-hmm. And us three come together, and our mission is to empower, inspire, and motivate, right? That's our mindset. Mm-hmm. The people that come in, we can't account for what they do. So the Bloods, the Crips, the GDs, they may have had an organization mindset, This is how we gonna organize things. This is how things is gonna go about growth, education, development, all that. They can say all of that, right? But then
Mhm.
you can't really account for an individual. So say I no longer want to, go by what y'all we all put in place, and I want to go a whole nother way. Y'all can't control what I want to do as an individual.
Right.
I control me.
Yeah.
So if they bring people in and they're trying to mentor people, and people feel like, oh well, because society or whatever have put out there also about drugs and gang banging, and some come in and want to do that because they think that's what it's about. But then you got the older people in the organizations that's trying to say, nah, that's not the way. You see what I'm saying? So it's like these organizations are broken into two now because it's the gang banging, and then you have the older ones that are trying to empower. They're trying. They're
But
doing their best. But it's like, how can you do that when people rely on the media and society? They rely on, oh, they're a gang. And they're committing all these crimes, and they're doing this and they're doing that, but they don't highlight how these organizations feed the community, pour into the community, have community centers, they're mentoring the youth. They don't highlight that.
see, I always looked at it like, I think that was the origin. And from my understanding of like a lot of these gangs, I know specifically like in Chicago, a lot of them that they had good origins, that they had, wholesome origins even,
Yeah.
but
Right.
that they kind of went wayward. That and even if there are a few that the people who still want to do good under the name of the gang are so few and far and few between, that especially because like the younger generation, that they're committing crimes in the name of the gangs and stuff, so that the image of said gangs now are permeated with robbing, stealing, and killing, because the older leaders, there's so few of them and there's no structure. Like, at one point in time, even still as recent as like the 90s, there was still structure in gangs in Chicago. Like they had organization where it was like there were generals, there were lieutenants, and people, there was like order. You reported up to
Right.
whomever, and orders were still being given. And now people don't respect that, and they have different branches of their own gangs within gangs, and it's like it's hard to maintain structure with new wild cats who ain't trying to respect that.
But what's the difference? I feel like there's still a lot of structure amongst many of them, right? But let's take the police.
Mm-hmm.
Um the police, it's the same thing with the police. They bring people into the police force, train them up, to what they want. And what do some of these police do? They still kill people. They're still
Mm-hmm.
taking bribes. They're still moving drugs. They're still you you I mean, what I'm saying is the people at the top really can't control that until it comes to their attention. That's with anything. So why hold these organizations slash gangs to something that we're not holding other people to?
But what happens with the police? Because of the fact that there's a few bad apples, the whole, now look at the overall perception of policing. Most
Right.
of us are like, policing is crap. Like all of y'all are bad apples because you're complicit by proxy. You're complicit
Yeah.
by the fact that you are also a police officer. I have family and friends that are police officer, people I know, close friends and stuff, and they may be like, okay, they ain't doing the dirt that these police
Right.
officers are doing, but they
Right.
still get hate. They know not to go nowhere in that uniform or with their
Right.
badge around their necks or whatever, because people like can't stand them, So as a result, like those few bad apples, if it's a few,
Mhm.
have like ruined the image of policing, and the
Yeah.
community is now like, all of y'all are trash,
They put them all in the same category, and it's not all of them. But you know what? That rule right there applies to everybody. All gangs, organizations aren't like that either. You know
But
what I mean?
I don't know, Shalakemia, because I'm looking at it from the aspect of like what it started off as versus where
Hmm.
it ended up. And I'm not in a I'm not in a community to where I would see, or you know what I'm saying? Like I don't have the same interactions. But to me, it would be a difference. Like we know what gang culture represents. we know what that represents. I'm not hearing rappers or any like rappers that, especially rappers that would be involved in the culture, get out and say, okay, this is not what this represents anymore. There's still a certain stigma behind it, because you have a lot of rappers and black men that are a part of it pushing for it. When they out the window with guns and they wearing rags and they throwing up signs and they telling you they'll kill you and your whole damn that's the thing that kind of ruins the overall picture, like especially what it started out to be, because what it started out to be was for the community. And they worked in conjunction to what was the group that helped get welfare started?
WIC, you mean Black Panthers?
Yeah, the Black Panthers. A lot, they were working in conjunction with a lot of with organizations like that. But I think when you have rappers and others um that participate in it, and you're not talking about these things, but you're talking about the violent side of it, I think that's why we do look at, a lot of us do look at, when we hear gangs, we like, oh crap. Let me get out the way. Oh crap, I'm not going in that neighborhood. Oh crap, if I go over here, let me take certain types of precautions. Then with all the rappers that have been killed over the last few years, and some of them having gang affiliations, I'm not going to say that these rappers have never helped out with their communities, because a lot of them did, but they glorified certain aspects of that culture. And I feel like that's why we have a certain view on it, because certain aspects of the culture was glorified by the men themselves. And I want to know your opinion on that.
I really I don't agree with that. I mean, I know that some are a misrepresentation, but let's be honest. That's not just amongst them. That's amongst all of us. And we look at that misrepresentation, and I feel like we don't get to know, the backside to it. That's with anything. I feel like the people that are speaking up about it and doing things about it, they're not really heard, because what? They're probably not a rapper. They probably don't have the following. But I feel like there are men out here that are representing it in the right way and trying to get that message out there. But that's with anything. Yeah, they're misrepresented. They shouldn't be doing, things like that. But who can really control those type of people? They're going to do what they want to do. They're taking what it started out to be, and trying to keep that going, instead of growing how the organization was to grow. But all we're seeing is that. And we're taking that and we're running with it. Me, I've got to sit down and talk to people that are affiliated, that are doing great things in the community. You see what I'm saying? So I didn't just judge them off, okay, well, I see this one hanging out the car with a gun and he's affiliated with that. I can't judge this man over here that's trying to, pour into the community. You see what I'm saying? Bringing unity to the community, looking out for the kids. They look out for the elderly people that they own families ain't even looking out for them. They feed in the community. They at Christmas time they pour into the community, Thanksgiving, but we're not seeing that, and we're not highlighting that. I've got to see a different side of these men that are affiliated. And I don't have I seen the ones that are gang banging? Yeah. I've seen the bad side of it, but I've also seen the positive change side too.
Where would you
oh,
I'm sorry, Tucker, go ahead.
I've seen, former gang members, and most of the people that I know that's doing good in the community, and, they have something similar to like the Detroit 300 in Chicago, where they're like patrolling the communities, making sure that gas stations are safe for women to go to, gas stations at night, and, just patrolling the communities and making sure that, the women and children are safe in the communities. Yeah. And it's people that are former gang. A lot of the people that I know, that are trying to do good in the communities, like by the time they get to that point, they're like trying to disassociate themselves from the gangs. Not to say that there aren't some gang members that are also trying to do good, but like I would say, like, for me, the overwhelming majority of those that I see that are gang affiliated are still involved in street activity to some degree. And they may not be killing, they may not be, robbing folks, but they're still involved in street activity that it impacts our community in a negative way. You may think like, okay, because I'm not, doing drive-bys, or I'm not, robbing people, I'm just, selling drugs, or, I'm selling a little weed. But you selling a little weed is a result of 12 always in the community, and we know when they in the community, they jumping out asking questions later, which can result in loss of life. And those are still things that impact the community in a negative way. So most of the gang members that I've seen and that I know are still involved with and associated with some level of street activity. I do know some former gang members who are doing good and creating community programs, trying to do the right thing, that have turned their lives around, that are even doing motivational speaking, written books, all the things, like real talk, and that I know personally. But most of them have now disassociated themselves from the gangs.
What do you think about the statement, they mess up the community and now they're trying to clean it up? And because I'll look at it, a lot of bad things happened, like so many bad things happened with a lot of gangs that I've seen. And then it's like, you done made all the babies, you done did all the you done sold all the drugs. And don't get me wrong, I think those are symptoms of a bigger problem, but there's still some account that has to be had from the things that happen in our community. And if you look at the crack era, I think a lot of gang culture was exemplified out of the crack era. And we think about how bad the crack era messed up the Black community. um I do think that, like, of course we weren't dropping drugs off of planes and dropping guns off of planes and stuff. And we have been so downtrodden. When you throw money at a few of us and it's quick, rich, quick and easy. But we've seen, like I said, we've seen the effects that that's had on our community. So in a certain aspect, I'm like, if we see the effects that a lot of this type of culture has had on our community, why do we still glorify certain aspects of it? And it's definitely a lot of bad apples spoiling the bunch, because it's gang culture is damn. I would say it's mainstream, or it was at once upon a time it was mainstream. I've never seen Snoop.
It is still. Look at
I've
rap music.
never seen Snoop Dogg, and Snoop has been a Crip for as long as we can remember. We've never seen Snoop denounce the Crips. Now he'll sit around and say stop the violence, but we ain't never seen him denounce
That's
the
a
Crips.
good point.
When it came down to Nipsey Hussle, Nipsey was a Crip.
Rolling 60s.
You see what I'm saying? And they'll say, okay, stop the violence, but I think certain things represent a certain thing with our culture. And I kind of feel like we've gotten too far for it to mean what it was intended to mean, if that makes sense.
I don't know. Like, I don't feel like Snoop should have to renounce anything. That's how I feel. With y'all saying that he's always saying stop the violence and things like that. Why are we looking at every Crip or every gang member as violent? Are we looking at them as bad people?
I think there's definitely
not every, but they represent.
Okay. So no, that doesn't mean that though. Like I just told y'all, if all three of us are in the same organization, right? And I go and do something outside of the organization that don't represent y'all. That represents me. At that time, y'all need to go ahead and separate the organization from me, because I made a choice as an individual. I didn't make a choice for all three of us. I made a choice as an individual to do something that went against the organization. So y'all need to disassociate me from the organization. Y'all need to make a statement and say, Shalakemia is no longer a part of it. I don't feel like that bad rap should be on everybody. And that's just how I feel as a person.
And I respect that, Shalakemia, but how do you do that when there's tens of thousands of people committing crimes in the name of, you know, or let's say, you know, maybe they ain't spray painting Crip on it, but, you know, they got rolling 60s on them tatted on, you know, like they're committing crimes and they have some sort of gang affiliation. Like, how do you denounce everybody that is committing crimes and associated with your organization? Because for me personally, what you said took me back to like the Temptations when they split. And literally you had two groups. My husband always talks about this, performing as the Temptations, and you didn't know who you was going to see, like which people of the Temptations you was going to see until you showed up. And like they had to find ways to start distinguishing themselves. For me personally, if I'm in a group with y'all, and like, you know, y'all are doing something that does not align with my morals, I'll be like, I'm opting out. I'm no longer associated with the group because this does not align with my values and my principles as a woman. And I don't want my name associated with something that is not in line with my principles.
When you have big organizations like that, like fraternities and things like that, people in fraternities have done horrible things. People don't look at the whole fraternity like that. Look at the things that they make people do to get into them. I've heard the horror stories. I've heard some people say, you know, I don't even want to be a part of that if this is what I have to do. They're not labeled as a gang though. All I'm saying is we cannot, if there's a few bad apples, we can't sit up and look at that whole organization as bad. That's all I'm sitting up saying. Because everybody, I feel like everybody's a part of the same organization, but everybody's not doing the same things. There are some good people doing some good things. That's all that I'm trying to bring to the table, because it hurts other people when you doing the right thing. Like I said, we're all in an organization. Y'all two doing the right thing. I'm doing the wrong thing. Do y'all want people to look at y'all like, oh, well, they was affiliated with Shalakemia? I'm an individual. I made my own decisions.
But then
tell me to do that.
But then even when you talk about being a part of a gang, so if let's say we all three, we the MIs, we the male identifiers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this gang and we holding up the MIs, you know, and we're saying this is what we're a part of, this is what we're doing. And an individual does go out and does something on their own accord.
Mm-hmm.
If one of us is wearing the letters and one of us does something bad, and we're supposed to be representing a certain group, people are going to look at that group and say, okay, they have A, B, C, D going on, or they're going to publicly denounce, well, we had, you know, you'll have like AKAs or people in sororities and fraternities. And let's say the hazing goes beyond something that it should have gone on.
Right.
What those fraternities and sororities will do, well, you know, we've been made aware that ABCD did ABCD.
Yeah.
She's no longer with us. She's not she doesn't represent our brand. She doesn't represent us. But we don't see that from the opposite. We don't see that.
And we still go.
They just did that with Tyree Nichols, the cops in the Tyree Nichols case.
Exactly.
They did that. They just did that. Yeah.
They just did that. And can we look at that organization like what? Y'all got members in here, you know, that are doing things like this. You see what I'm saying? They're not shutting down the organization.
No, that's true.
They're denouncing that person. This person, they sent out a letter. This person is no longer, you know, affiliated with us. I'm just saying that we can't come to the table and there's a whole bunch of bad apples and we hold the whole organization, you know what I mean, accountable. I don't feel like that we can do that.
So you don't feel like it's a monolith, like it's not monolithic.
Right.
I don't feel like that. I don't feel like I'm about to come and judge an organization because a few bad things happen. Are they participating in those bad things? Because let's be honest, when people do those bad things, the great that is happening amongst that organization always gets put in the dark. And people always like to highlight the bad that's going on. And we forget
that's what I'm saying though, because like this is all conjecture, speculation, rumor. But that, like, when you think about like the Crips, you know, there's rumor that like the heads be in on it, that they profit from it, that they profit from the shakedowns, that when a person comes into town and they want protection and they, that they like that they are somehow benefiting from or profiting. And the difference in that situation with like the guys from the Tyree Nichols situation is like these D9 organizations, they come out and they make a statement. You don't see gangs coming out and saying, we're not associated, we're not affiliated, we don't want nothing to do with Suge Knight and that gangsta stuff that he doing over there at Death Row Record. Like, you don't see no like a spokesperson.
Let's be honest though. If there was someone that wanted to come front and say that, who's going to listen? You have to understand, they are labeled as a gang, not an organization.
Right.
They're not giving that. I'm not sitting up here saying all of them are angels and there's not crime. I'm just saying it's not everybody.
I'm gonna read the super chats, honey, because
okay.
we're quite far behind.
Okay.
But shout out to Koja Malik. She says drug and gang culture is not positive. And I think she threw tomatoes at us. And Koja, that's just not nice. But
that's a stop sign.
Oh, is it a stop sign, girl?
Yes,
I can't see because I saw tomatoes, honey, and I'm like, I'm hungry.
I saw tomatoes too, so you ain't alone.
Okay.
A stop sign.
Okay. Concrete do have on her glasses, Shalakemia.
I don't know.
Probably the ones that could perceive it, not her. But did you still want to address that comment?
I mean, my thing is we never get to the bottom of things. Like I understand, drugs are not positive, but we didn't put drugs in our community. I feel like they put drugs in our community to mess our community up. And I'm just being honest. We didn't have that type of power. We were given drugs by who?
Good point.
That's the government.
Shout out to Black Wizard. He says forgiving is not forgetting. Justice, fairness, and compassion doesn't mean letting people off the hook either. If someone has caused harm and is dangerous, it's reasonable to keep them away from society. That's a good point, Black Wizard.
I'm gonna ask that afterwards because I still didn't get an answer from my actual question. That we kind of started talking about this, but it ties into what Black Wizard said.
Okay. Shout out to Dane C. He says gangs are the rats and roaches of the community. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to Koja Malik. She says, say less. You talking is very disappointing. Koja, you came in on one today, honey. Shout out to Black Wizard again. He says gangs arise when needs aren't met. They can be helpful, but mostly they are in why he put that big
antithetical
to order. You can be compassionate and recognize their activity isn't great for the health of your community. Thank you so much for that, Black Wizard. And shout out to Koja Malik again.
He only hits women with an open hand mindset.
Okay, that's an interesting statement, but thank you so much for that, Koja. And shout out to Dane. He says, I think Danielle has Curlin locked up in a closet behind her, and he is tapping a message in Morse code to let us know.
Oh my gosh, not Morse code.
Baby, that thing is on his own stream. I do feel some type of way that he ain't come in the chat and speak to me.
He ain't been where he been the last couple times. I feel some type of way too.
See, this is how the shit gets started. I ain't gonna say that.
Okay,
I ain't gonna say that because he'll be mad, and I don't want him to be mad. But he should have still came
all
on.
right. I ain't used to this. I feel like he abandoned us.
Listen, shout out to Koja Malik again. She says, Shalakemia, take a break and reflect. This not it. Thank you so much for that, Koja. Shout out to Mr. Me Too. He says, speaking of gangs, they have produced U.S. presidents and senators, i.e., the Kennedys.
Rothschild, the Kennedys,
honey, the biggest gangs, gang members and ties. Shout out to Black Wizard again. He says, I agree with you to a point. One person doesn't represent the whole, but a gang's nature for existing is when needs are unmet, and their motto is to achieve those needs by whatever means. Thank you for that, Black Wizard.
He
And
has a good
that
point.
is
Gangs are a response to unmet need. Like even, the selling of drugs, like it was, it came about like there was a deficit in the community. People didn't have jobs and doing drugs. Like, do you know, like the stress, the depression? I always talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome, the mental health issues that we suffer from in our communities. People were looking for an escape. Like we always talk about the effect, but we never talk about the cause.
Right. Exactly. And the one lady, I don't know what her name is, when she was like, Shalakemia, this isn't it. I mean, I'm not looking for people to agree with me, but I do feel like we have to have a open mindset. We are so quick to judge off of
Mhm.
one situation and just let that be our mindset. And I'm just not that type of person. Not when I've been exposed to people, that are doing great things in the community, that they're not going to show you that.
Yeah.
And we rely on the media a lot. We rely on, society. They're not showing us that part of, these people that were affiliated. They're not showing us that part. You know why? They want us to have a bad outlook on these people, but they don't care. They're in our face, in the Black community's face. They don't care what outlook that we have on the KKK and many other, white gangs that they're labeling and registering as organizations. Us as Black people, we have to really wake up to this. It's in our face, but we go off of what they're showing us and what they tell us.
You ain't lying. It's literally 2023 and we still have a plethora of freaking sundown towns. We still need the green book to figure out what towns to stay away
Right.
from. Mississippi, Texas, Missouri, like literally Kentucky. Come on now. I just
Absolutely.
saw where a man in Mississippi burned a cross on his lawn to warn his neighbors to stay away, to run his neighbors out the
But that's not
neighborhood.
gang
What the
activity, though. Really?
baby? 2023.
That's
But I
not gang
will
activity.
listen. It's
Come
wild.
on. That's
Let me tell you,
violence.
we still finding black
Violence
men
is
getting
violence.
lynched. We still finding black men. We still finding strange fruit, like in 2023. But I do want to go back to my question that I was trying to ask earlier, Shalakemia, and that's in reference to us having some sort of communal standard for what is unacceptable. Like, certain things just aren't acceptable. I gave the example of my husband, and he is a no nonsense type of guy. And I'm very empathetic to my people, the plight of my people. I understand that a lot of us are sick. A lot of us, suffer from a lot of things. I understand. I know our plight, our backstory. So I'm very empathetic and want all of us to come, but I think that I've become more reasonable since, partnering with my husband. But I wanted to know your thoughts on us developing or having some sort of communal standards, or if there are certain crimes that are committed against people that we should have zero tolerance for.
I feel like sex crimes, zero tolerance. Sex crimes against children, zero tolerance. That's just how I feel. And when I say sex crimes, the ones that are not against children, the ones that are definitely provable. There's been a lot of people that have been accused of rape that they relied on. You know what I mean? Those numbers are very high. But there's some people that did commit the crime. I feel like zero tolerance for that. Some people may say zero tolerance for murder. I can't really say that. I can't really say that for the simple fact that some situations people were defending themselves. You know, every situation is different. But absolutely crimes that have to do with a sexual offense.
Right.
Absolutely zero
Okay.
tolerance. I feel like those people should be in a community of their own altogether. That's how I really feel about it. Around no children, no temptations,
Yeah.
nothing like that. Like live in a community, all y'all over there, to yourself or something.
Yeah.
That's how, I feel about it.
I respect it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Danny, did you have another question?
I don't have any more questions. I think Miss Shalakemia came in and got straight to the point. No chaser.
Shoot.
Wasn't a lot of filler. Shalakemia came right on in, honey. So everything that I had has been answered, honey. So I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you.
Okay. And most of my questions are, we would be going back in the conversation. So I think that, we had a very robust conversation, and the conversation
Good.
went in I could not have predicted. The conversation went in a direction that I didn't necessarily anticipate. And I think I learned more about you than I knew. And I do truly appreciate you taking us up on our offer and joining us and being so honest and open. And one thing about you that I knew before having you on is that, whatever your point of view is, you're going to stick to it. And I appreciate that about you. But also, you're open-minded and open to listening to the opinions and views of others too. So I do appreciate that. But in closing, did you have any final thoughts that you want to give on the conversation or topic at hand? And do you have any upcoming projects that you want to make us aware of?
Really, I just appreciate the opportunity. Y'all having me on. I feel like we need to be able to have these type of conversations in these spaces. I feel like this is a great example of, how Black women can come together and, we're not agreeing on everything, but we're respecting. You see what I'm saying? That's how each other feels. And we need that in these type of spaces. People don't really see that amongst Black women. It's like an argument back and forth. You don't agree with me. I don't like you anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can respect this show, and I hope y'all have me back again.
We will.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it here. I love it.
So will.
This is, an amazing space to be in, and I just want to, tell both of y'all, like, this is amazing.
Thank you, sis. We definitely appreciate you. And we look forward to working with you in the future on your platform, ours, and, getting together, even maybe behind the scenes and doing some work, because you dropped some gems when you first came on regarding, your business and how you were able to, grow your platform and stuff. And I was definitely taking notes. So we appreciate you so, so much. Thank you for taking time out of your Sunday and spending, part of your morning with us. Thank you once again. We have been dropping your link throughout the discussion, so you guys make sure you go over and give Shalakemia a follow and support her on her other platforms. And we just appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Concrete Girl, that was one for the book.
It was, child. It was very good, very interesting. Like I did not anticipate where the conversation was going. I was not. We learned more about her than I knew. I definitely hear fans on different subjects and different topics. And one thing about her, she gonna hold to her guns, and I respect it. Like, this is what I feel, this is how I feel, and that's what it is. Definitely appreciate it. And I'm glad that she was able to join us. It was a good conversation. Definitely.
I thought it was an outstanding conversation. And I love that she pointed out the fact that although we may not agree on the same things, that a level of respect is there, to where even if we don't agree, it's not disrespectful. And there's no ill will and hard feelings, which I think we as a community need to definitely get to. Though we may not agree with each other, we can still be show a level of respect. And I love that. I love that aspect of it, because I think that's a big thing. So I thought it was a really good conversation. So
me too.
Kudos, Concrete. And I want to commend you on something.
What I do?
Your sound was good throughout, and I'm proud of you for that, girl.
I got my Ethernet cord. It was like doing something funny, and I'm like, how? I'm plugged in, but I plugged in to the internet. You know what it is? I keep telling my husband, baby, he be downloading these apps on our stuff, and they be from over yonder, and I'm like, they putting a virus in our whole system. And he tells me I'm crazy, but I be knowing, and that's what it is, because listen, I know I ain't. But anyways, thank you, appreciate you. But y'all need to stay tuned for the entire month up until next month, baby, because we got a lot coming. Like we have a lot of things going on, a lot more guests, interesting interviews, some people you may know, people you might not know. We got some fun stuff coming up. So people y'all probably ain't seen in forever and been wondering where they at. That baby keeps things interesting. Stay tuned because y'all ain't gonna be disappointed.
That part.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't pay for Tata's. Shit, y'all should want a free damn show.
Let me tell you something. The Tata's was last Sunday. Culture, was you here? Baby, the
Tatas were definitely here last Sunday.
Was Tata-ing. Baby, that baby oil and them Tatas was Tata-ing last Sunday.
Maybe they were shiny.
If you missed it, where was you at?
Culture, you missed a hell of a show.
Yeah, it was.
Culture said she was here. Culture. Okay, they Tata last week, honey. I don't know what the hell mine's doing, but they stayed up.
Tata now, y'all.
They stayed up.
That was something. I mean, I will never forget that show. Anyway, I should have did a review of that. I should have, but
really
anyway,
should have. I was really looking forward to. I was like,
I don't know what I was doing Wednesday. Oh, I told you, it's been a busy week. It's a busy month for me this month. We got a lot going on at work. But anyways, yeah, like I said, y'all stay tuned because some fun stuff coming down the pike.
I thought you was gonna say the pipe. Like, shout out to everybody who came through in the chat. A very, very, very special thanks to Miss Shalakemia. Definitely enjoyed the interview. That was dope. And absolutely. Shout out to the guys and to y'all in the chat, honey. Y'all don't know how to act and
never do. Baby kids.
We tired. But be sure to hit the like button if you haven't subscribe, and we will see you guys back here Wednesday.
Yes, Wednesday. We out.
Are